Welcome to the show. I'm Danella, and here's what's happening now. Baby, it's brick outside. That's what it feels like. It feels like when you walk outside, you're getting smacked in the face with several bricks. Of course, in the show, we have in our world this week, hey, we are in the new year. So for those of you that have actually set resolutions, we're going to talk about a couple ways to actually keep those resolutions, as well as the top 3 cities to best keep your New Year's resolution in. Apparently there's like geography is involved in this whole thing. So I'll tell you what are the top 3 cities for that. Also, political pop is on deck and they might be trying to take your pot away. Yeah, details on that in just a moment. But first, let's just talk about the deep Arctic freeze that we're all in. It's out of control. Unfortunately, so far, 12 lives have been lost because of this snowfall. I mean, specifically on the East Coast, we'll start in Florida. I mean, it was snowing in Tallahassee, parts of Florida who hasn't seen snow in like, 20 years. We're like, what is this? Snow accumulating. Also, all the way up the East Coast, even in the Midwest. So for those of you that are affected by the snow, just please be safe. I know in our area, we're dealing with a lot of ice, especially when that snow melts and then that deep freeze. So please be safe. Slow down in this weather. But I got to talk to you guys about New Year. Let's take it back. A couple of unfinished products I have on my schedule to deliver today. Guess I can call them products. Okay, first we're going to start with New Year's Eve. So, New Year's Eve, right? When I grew up, the tradition was with my grandmother, because I told you my mom was a teen mom, so she'd be out partying on New Year's. But anyway, it would be my sister and myself and my grandmother, and we would always watch the countdown as much as I could stay awake. Like, this is when I was really little. And to be honest with you, it was the 80s, so I was able to sip some champagne. I know! Terrible, but that's what happened, and I'm all right. So anyway, yeah, so this is what was a New Year's tradition. We'd eat like, petite fours, these little chocolates, and try to stay up till the ball dropped. And as I got older, I remember finally staying up. Now I'm thinking I cannot, when my son gets older, allow him to watch the ball drop. Here's why. Several problems. First problem was I don't know, this year I'm flipping through all the channels. I don't know, I didn't really like all of it, all of the shows. And I'm switching through all of the networks, First of all, and I like Britney Spears. I do. I mean, she's entertaining. She looked great. She was performing in Vegas. And I think her song is called You Better Work Ish. Take away the ish and make it the whole word, right? Female dog. Right. So anyway, she's saying this. I believe that was like before 10 o'clock. Maybe it was like right before 9. I don't know, something along the lines. And I was like, I'm getting super old. But in my mind, I'm thinking if my son was, old enough to watch with me, I would be like, close your eyes, your ears. What is this? But the real thing that really shocked me was watching on CNN. And keep in mind, I normally am not watching CNN on New Year's Eve. However, that's how I'm just surfing the channels this year. I'm like, come on, give me something I want to watch. So, yes, did you see on CNN, people were smoking weed on the news? Like, I mean, full on, they had a pot and paint party. So it's similar to like a sip and paint. I don't know if you guys, they're really big in our area. The idea is that you go to this place, they'll teach you how to paint, and you sip some wine, some drinks. Awesome, fun. Well, they were doing that with pot, congratulations to all of you in California. Now recreational pot is now legal. Lots of celebration. I do know in the area that they're still dealing with licensing. So some businesses are open and this week they're working on getting their official license. But I can't tell you. So it's me and I'm sitting next to my mom. We're partying in the house, while my son is asleep upstairs. And literally I'm watching folks blow weed into the camera. And so my mom's celebrating like, yeah, that's awesome. It was like surreal because in your mind, you're like, yo, I don't want my mom celebrating that, right? In your mind, but whatever. So anyway, yeah, she was like, oh, that's great. Meanwhile, I'm just kind of like in my mind, like, I'm an adult now. I could like, what should I act normal? Like, or should I be like, what type of bong is that? I've never seen that since college. I mean, it's been a while. But anyway, yeah, man. So I'm just watching this and I'm just, again, thinking to myself, I get it that it's news. I get that it's news. And I'm telling you, all this is before midnight. So I don't know, whatever your New Year's was, I hope you had a great celebration. I tend to now like to celebrate the New Year at home as opposed to being out. I've always kind of done that. If I wasn't working, hosting a party or something, I'd always watch the ball drop and then go out and kick it. Right. But man, they were like super smoking. Super smoking. And that's going to lead us to political pot. Political pop. Here is your political pop for Friday, January 5th. And yes, the feds are trying to take your pot. What? Yes, just yesterday, Attorney General Jeff Sessions has rescinded several Obama memos. Now, this is just another rule in the long list of laws and rules that are in the Obama era that the Trump administration is just throwing out the window. But here's what these memos are about. So you know that in a lot of areas now, various cities, marijuana is legal on a state level, but on a federal level still illegal. So these memos basically said, look, you're not selling to kids, you're not doing anything shifty. We're going to look the other way, let you sell what you're going to sell. Well, Jeff Sessions, he has been a strong opponent of marijuana, legalization of it. And so, yeah, now he has rescinded those memos, and everybody I know are kind of probably like this, what does it mean? Does it mean he's going to create a new rule? Does it mean that he is going to eliminate it altogether? Nobody knows, what this means. But the biggest confusion is on the state level, because on one end, it may be legal in your state, but if the federal government is saying it's illegal, then what does that mean? How do you proceed? Is it going to be confusing like it kind of is now, but we know, they'll look the other way? Or are they no longer looking the other way? So in the upcoming days, we'll see what happens. And that was your political pop. I can't help myself. Okay, now let's shoot over to an update on my phone, because I told you I would give you this. So yes, I'm old school because I'm still on an iPhone 6. Yes, it's been a couple years, but I loved it. We had a good time, me and my phone. I knew how to work it. I didn't have to know new features. It was all good until I did that update. And then that update slowed my phone down, ate up all of my functions. So now I can FaceTime for 3 minutes and then the phone's dead. It's really embarrassing. And I have family, they like to FaceTime with the baby, and it's embarrassing. It's so bad that my 2-year-old, when the phone cuts off, do you know what my 2-year-old says? This cat is 2. He says this, "Mommy, phone's charging." He knows I need to go charge this phone. It's embarrassing. So anyway, so the plan is, right? Here's what I told you I would do last week. So I'm going to give you an update on how it went, right? So one of the workarounds was, if you didn't want to buy a new battery, at that last week it was like $75 or so from another company. But anyway, so you would take all the information off of your phone, put it onto your computer, then wipe your phone completely, right? Then upload the old program, like the old software, and then put your information back on. Phone should work like a charm. So then what Apple did, as you may know, is Apple came out and said, hey, you know what? Let's reduce our costs of installing a battery. Now for just $29, we will install a new battery for you. So, I did not have time this week to even try to do it on my computer. I was swamped. And then $29, I'm like, that's a bargain. But there's a part of me that's mad. I feel like this. You broke it, you fix it, right? Isn't that how it goes? If your neighbor breaks something on your property, don't they fix it? And the worst part about it is you made me do this, yo. You made me upload this. And you ruined me. All right, so anyway, the plan is to just pay for it. It's so sad. I feel very American when I'm like, it's just easier to pay for it. It's only $29. All right. Yeah, so I may do that. But then there's a part of me ethically that's like, if I don't pay, I'd rather put that $29 into a new phone. That's a vicious cycle. I'm torn. But I'll work something out soon. So hope that helps you if you're still struggling and you don't want to waste the time, because it will take a long time to do the earlier workaround, but it's free. Just pay the $29 or just buy yourself a new phone. Those are your options. Speaking of software updates, okay, so are you guys following this Intel thing? If you follow me on Facebook, I posted about this just yesterday. So this Intel chips, apparently there's something wrong that with this actual chip, right? There's two problems that are happening. The first problem, well, the main problem is this, is that the malfunction that's in it could allow hackers to actually hack your personal files, including access to your passwords. Right. Nightmare. And so now what they're saying, it's still developing. They've been trying to fix this. And we're talking like, when you say Intel chips, think about it. Whatever you're watching me on, probably it has definitely an Intel chip in it. So computers, cell phones, medical equipment, tons of things, Intel chips. And so what they're realizing is that it looks like the actual chips may need to be replaced in addition to the software. Software manufacturers have to actually upgrade their systems. And as an iPhone, old school, we're talking a couple years ago, but in phone land, that's like forever. Several years ago. Anyway, old iPhone cat, I don't want another software update, because what happens when you do a software update? It slows down your device. And that's what they're saying. The same thing with this Intel situation, because so far the software programs that do have fixes, they're warning people, and they're saying this, you can do the fix. It will help you, but your computer will run slower, somewhere between 30% slower. That's annoying. They say if you have a newer computer, then you'll be okay. It won't run that much slow, but on older computers, it'll start running much slower with these updates. Frustrating, man. I swear, as if we don't have enough to do in the new year. All right, so now we're going to move over to Golden Globes this week. If you watch the Golden Globes, you may see a lot of the actresses actually show up wearing all black, like myself. I am wearing all black right now, and this wasn't planned initially. But I guess I'm going to say I am in solidarity. So have you guys heard about Time Up? So Time Up, a lot of stars are involved. Let's talk about them. Shonda Rhimes, Reese Witherspoon, Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, and Meryl Streep. Now, these are just some of the donors that are involved in Time Up. They're calling it a comprehensive plan to fight sexual harassment in all industries. Amazing. Guess how much money they've raised so far? $13 million for legal fees. That's amazing. And so what they're asking the celebrities, the women, they're saying, hey, to show your solidarity, wear all black. I guess it was in my subconscious. I'm going to wear my all black and stand in solidarity. Also, speaking of women, hey, you want equal pay? Are you willing to move? I have a possible solution for you. You may want to move to Iceland. It's kind of far, but you got time. Here's what Iceland is doing. Their government is committed to closing the gender gap completely by 2022. That means you have time to relocate your whole life. This is how they're doing it. Starting now, they announced this on Monday. They actually have, it's not just because, it's illegal, although pretty much it can be disputed, but most people agree that every country has that pay gap between men and women. Everybody says that. And even though it's illegal, they're actually putting some legislation behind it. And by that, what they're doing is requiring the actual companies to prove that they do not have gender bias. Here's what they're saying. They say that all companies with at least 25 employees will have to get a certification by the end of this year to prove that there is no gender bias in their pay. Smaller companies will have within the next few years to get their certification. And here are the fines. If you're fine your company, right? Your company can pay $500 a day. And what they're saying is this, that the employer still has an option to reward the worker based on experience, performance, other aspects, but they have to prove that gender isn't one of those aspects. Amazing. Go Iceland. Go Iceland, okay, I'm sorry. I don't know. Sometimes I just break out and dance. It started since I was a child and it has never left me. In fact, every night after dinner, this is not a joke, every night after dinner, we have a dance party. We being my son and I. If my nephew's over, all three of us will do it. My husband makes it home from work. We all do it. It's a dance party. That's how he digests his dinner. Gotta dance sometimes. It gets hard out here. All right, so in the new year, I encourage you to do more dancing and keep your New Year's resolutions. So let's get into In Our World. This week, we're talking about keeping resolutions. I have a couple of tips for you, but first, let's talk about the best cities to keep your New Year's resolutions in. I had no idea. Some cities are better than others. We'll talk about the top 3. Number 3, San Diego. If you live in San Diego, you're more likely to keep your New Year's resolution. That's awesome. Folks in San Francisco, you're number 2. I can kind of see San Diego, San Francisco. Nice. But you'll never guess what number 1 is. The number 1 city to keep your New Year's resolution is Seattle. Now that surprised me. I somehow was thinking maybe like this nice sunny weather, maybe at stake, but I don't know. Apparently folks in Seattle are more likely to keep their New Year's resolution. So if you don't live in any of those cities, here are a couple tips for you. First, don't get discouraged by slip-ups. Keep that in mind. Anytime you're trying to institute a resolution, and for some folks, some of you guys that are watching, maybe you're not big on resolutions, but you know, in your life, maybe at some point you are trying to break old, I call it old programming or old habits. The best thing to do is don't give up. Don't get discouraged if you slip up. Remember that this is your normal behavior and you're trying to change something. Because what tends to happen with resolutions is, you know, people put so much stake in, oh my God, I have to, you know, reach this goal by this date, or I have to lose this many pounds by this a time period, that then all of a sudden you slip up. Maybe you had a cheat day and then all of a sudden you're like, forget it, it's over. It's terrible. Terrible, terrible. So be patient with yourself. Don't get discouraged if you slip up. And the next tip, pair a behavior you'd like to start doing with something you already do. If you're trying to institute a new behavior, right, for a New Year's resolution or just in general, how about adding that behavior, pairing that with a current behavior, right, that you already do? Let's say, for example, you watch TV. And this is something that I used to do a lot before I was a mom. Now, when it's like, I barely have time. But anyway, what I would do is this. I would turn on the TV and exercise at the same time. That's what I would do. That way I could be getting exercise while I'm binge watching my favorite trash show. 1, I didn't feel as guilty, and 2, I was doing something good for my body. So yeah, that's something to think about, right? That idea of pairing a behavior you'd like to start doing with something that you already do. Now, for those of you who don't have a resolution, but you're thinking about doing something, I actually have a suggestion for you. I don't have to know you to know that this is a good suggestion. How amazing. So a really good friend of mine, she was telling me about her church service last Sunday. It's one of my closest friends. She was telling me that her church was doing the Daniel fast. This isn't the idea, but this is what prompted the upcoming idea. So her pastor was saying, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Daniel fast, the idea of it is following the diet that Daniel ate in the Bible. Okay, so the pastor was saying that for some people, and even for himself, because of his current diet, the Daniel fast for 21 days is not really a big challenge. It's not really a big deal because he already kind of eats like Daniel anyway. It's not challenging. So what he was telling people was, how about you do this? Either do the Daniel challenge and this other thing I'm suggesting, or the Daniel challenge, or just this other thing I'm suggesting. Do this instead of the Daniel challenge. So here's what he suggested for the 21 days. How about giving up something that is a distraction for you? So think about in your life, whatever the thing is that you feel is distracting for you. It's interesting because that distraction could be something physical, like a thing, like for my nephew, we were talking about this. He said he's going to give up YouTube watching. And I said, well, still you could watch my show. But yeah, he said he'll give up YouTube watching because it's so distracting. But the key thing is to implement now something positive in your life. And for the church, he was saying, instead of doing that distracting thing, maybe you could meditate or pray. So maybe meditation is not your thing. So my suggestion would be to you, substitute it with something positive that you'd like to start doing, right? So let's say, I'm going to get extreme with it. Let's say you're giving up gossiping. That's not that extreme. Let's say you're going to give up gossiping. Maybe as you start to gossip about something, stop yourself and say something positive. Ooh, that's a hard one. About the person that you're gossiping about. Or maybe if just before you curse somebody out, you stop yourself and say something positive. Yeah, it's something to think about. Yeah, and challenge yourself. Maybe you could do it for the whole year. Maybe you can do it for 21 days. Maybe you could do it for a week. But I challenge you to, I don't know, think of something you could do more positive in your life for the new year. So either way, if you already have a resolution, if you're thinking about taking on that challenge, I wish you much success. Now, before we wrap up the show, I have to get something off of my chest. If you follow me on Instagram, you know where I'm going. I swear this is from my heart. Look, I don't want to see in 2018 duck lips on IG, quack, quack, you gotta leave. I don't want to see in 2018 resting, ish face looking like you're constipated. I don't want to see in 2018, even though you're not his lady, let that man go see his baby. What I really want to see in 2018, less time watching screens, more time with family. That about wraps up the show. Thank you so much for joining the show in the new year. I hope that you are wiser, you are stronger, we are more unified and surrounded by love. And as always, I'll see you next week.